if I could ask you to do the same, that would be brilliant. Brighton on Sunday. Shall we kick off with Gail, please, at Sky Sports?
Do you want to just give us a little bit of team news? Any not, any now back?
I won't know till tomorrow. I think likely Melanie Leopold's out. Other than that, Kat Macario, the rest I'll know tomorrow. There are a couple, I don't want to say, doubts. I have to see if they're going to be available for training tomorrow or not.
Give us your reaction to the Champions League draw tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really had any time to process it because it happened during training and then I came up and I was in meeting after meeting, to be honest. But, of course, to get to the group stage, everybody is a good side. Everybody is a good team. So we respect all the opponents that we might face. And we know Real Madrid is a top team. Häcken, top team, performing really well. Paris FC, deservedly progressing into the group stage. So, no, listen, we've been in the Champions League a long time to know that this is a really tough competition and we've got a lot to prepare for.
You know that the English teams did very well last year, not so much this year. Chelsea, the only side still remaining. I mean, you've been aware, I'm sure, of the criticism around qualification and who's happy and who's not happy. Do you think that the best teams are in there? Do you think the format works? Do you think it's doing it justice as the best competition?
It was always going to end up in my press conference, this one, weren't it?
Well, you're the only one through.
Yes, and thanks for reminding me of that. First of all, we have to respect the format. The format's been in place and evolved a little bit in the last couple of years over a long period of time. I remember maybe in 2016-17 season, we joined the round of 32 and we had to play, Paul's going to kill me, someone, and we won. And then the next game we had to play Wolfsburg and we were out. A year later, we drew Wolfsburg right away and we were out. A year later, we faced Bayern Munich, won the game in the round of 16, and that improved our co-efficiency. That gave us some points on the board. And guess what? We had to earn that over 3 years. Much like probably Paris FC had to earn that, or whomever for that matter. So I think we have to respect the format. And I think it's important to say that because we all knew what it was.
Does it give you the best teams?
I mean,
best competition?
I think that's ignorant and arrogant all at once for us to say that. Roma and Benfica, two teams, won their leagues. Like, they deserve perhaps to go straight into a group competition. But this isn't about my opinion. This is what the format was, and we have to play that. However, do we need to look at that? Absolutely, we need to look at that. Do we need to look at that in line with the growth of the women game to say, well, actually, there's a lot more investment across many leagues that perhaps we should consider a format that's similar to that of the men's competition, where it's group stages from the off, but maybe larger. But also we have to look at the smaller nations and the smaller countries. They deserve the opportunity and the right to be in it as much as any English team does. And I think that it's important that for someone who's been in the competition for many, many years, it's not my place to comment on one team being better than the other. Because let me tell you, this is the Champions League. It's tough, any team you play against, to be honest with you.
And just one more from me, just to change the tack slightly. Latest England squad announced and Frank Kirby back in. You've obviously watched her for many, many years. You've seen her come back in time again, and no doubt absolutely delighted to see her name back in there because she's worked awfully hard and she's taken a lot, hasn't it, to get her and have the desire still to keep going.
Yeah, we spoke about that today, her and I. I'm always going to proceed on the side of caution for obvious reasons. She knows that. She's got another 55 minutes in the bank. She's had a really good training week. She's available for selection at the weekend. Ideally, we can send her in fresh into camp and she can build another cumulative load. Our goal is to keep Fran on the pitch all of the time, not some of the time, and she knows that. However, it's great for her to bounce back and get that opportunity once again with England because she's brilliant.
Okay, thanks, Gail. Can we come across to Tom Gary on Zoom, please?
Thanks.
I didn't see you like that.
Can I also just say happy birthday for Wednesday? Just kind of pick up on one thing you said there on the Champions League, because I'm just playing devil's advocate here, because personally I agree with you said there about the format, but a lot of people who are saying that it's not actually every team being that strong. I mean, your results last year against Glasgow, for example, you won 8-0. Now, I know on the flip side it's about developing the game in every country, but was that game a hard game?
No, I mean, you picked out the worst one. Let's be fair. You went all the way there, but I think there is no denying that better teams may not be in the group stage, but it's this conversation is perhaps what even Gareth Taylor was saying this a couple of years ago. It would have been hoped that format change would have been made for maybe now, but it hasn't for whatever reason. Maybe it takes time for it to work through, UEFA's channels. I don't know what takes so long to do it. My point is, that is what it is. That is the format, and we must respect it until it changes. And I do believe that is going to be the case. I don't know if it's going to be next year. It might be the year after. And listen, for us, we're champions of England, and only because of Barcelona winning did we make it into the group stage. It's not even like champions are making the group stage. Like, that seems odd enough in itself for the most part. That's why I mentioned Benfica and Roma, because you would have thought champions would be going directly into that. As for the rest, I only have a history of having zero currency literally in Europe and losing in the early parts, and that's what sort of you have to gain that experience, you have to gain that momentum, and sometimes that takes a little bit of time. What I don't want to happen here is that there is a sense of entitlement just because there's investment. I think it's about time UEFA change that, no question, but I don't think we should disrespect the format as it is, because I think it takes away from those teams, particularly teams like Paris FC, who have probably worked a number of years to even get into that. I listened to a really good interview with Tierney the other day. What a fabulous player. Talking about, for her, winning wasn't joining Paris or joining Lyon, it was getting full-time pro contracts for all of her teammates and helping Paris qualify for a group stage. Lots of teams have been working towards this. It just happens that there's more now that are capable of getting into those group stages. And I'll throw it back at you. Look at our group for this Champions League. Is there an easy game in there for us? Not at all. So I think I felt that last year that it was particularly tough. And Chelsea went out of the group stages the year before. Like, it isn't the competition of maybe 3 years ago. It's got much tougher. And I think we need to respect teams across Europe a little more.
Thank you for saying that. Can I also just link it back to this Sunday's game? Does the difficulty of the qualification process just reinforce the desire to win the league and not be part of that? That's what Gareth Taylor was alluding to yesterday.
Yeah, but you don't even have to. Winning the league doesn't mean you're in it. It doesn't. That's my point. You are correct. It is a matrix to understand that. It's an algorithm to understand how you qualify. To be honest with you, I don't bother with it because it was too complicated. I didn't know. Well, are we joining here? Are we joining there? Just stayed out of it. So it needs simplifying, it needs expanding, it needs a Europa League conversation, it needs all of those things. But I believe they're on the agenda. I think my point is I don't want to talk disrespectfully about any team in Europe, particularly knowing that we are a team that have lost to many teams in early rounds in our infancy, as much as going out of a group stage 2 years ago. I have way too much respect for the competition and teams across Europe to talk negatively about any of them.
Thanks, Emma. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom. We'll come to Simon next, please, and then Catherine.
Hey, a general one about the Champions League. Maybe you ask this every year, but how much does it drive you that you have all won this competition? You personally, does it feel like the missing piece from your collection?
I think I've held back on saying this a million times in press. I said it to Vic Akers this morning. I have already won the Champions League, and that meant the world to me when I was an assistant at Arsenal. So no, it doesn't. It's not a missing. It hangs very proudly on that lovely light I've got in my kitchen. I've already won it, and I know what my role was in that team, and I know the impact we all had on each other. So it isn't missing out of my cabinet. It's very firmly there. I've got a gold one and I've got a silver one. Would I like to do it as the manager of Chelsea? Of course, I'd love to. But it isn't missing from my life, that's for sure.
I just remember sort of when I was here just after the Barcelona defeat and on aggregate, I know it's sweared, and you could tell that you were still frustrated whilst at the same time proud of what your team had done in Nou Camp. But I just got a sense from you that you sort of...
I just wanted another 10 minutes in that game.
Yeah.
I was frustrated about us in the home leg. I wasn't frustrated away. I thought we did everything we could against the best team in the world. Best club team, best international team. Like, I review and say to myself, if it weren't for Barcelona, we would have been European champions already. But they are an exceptional generation. They are deserving of where they are. They are the best team in Europe, and they're the best international team in the world for a reason, and I respect that. I think my frustrations, they might look like that. I actually just really enjoy the competition, and I want the game to keep going, to be honest.
And finally, just a general question. There's been obviously some development here with the women's facilities at Cobham. What difference has that made in terms of how you sort of feel like you're perceived around the club? Do you feel like you're being looked after a lot more than you have been in the past, perhaps?
I think it's more about the perception it has for us. It means we don't drive each other mad, being stuck in the same space, having a nice locker room, having a nice gym, good upstairs, meeting rooms. Like, it's a bit more spacious. I think we felt a little bit on top of each other, and our team deserves to have those facilities. I don't feel grateful for them. It's an expectation. We should receive exactly the same as our boys and our men's on site. So while I'm delighted to have it, I also think it's something we should have.
Was that, just one more thing, was that something you made clear to Tom and the dad when you had chats with them sort of when they first took over? Yeah, no, they knew, they carried through with that, and they knew that there was work to be done, and they delivered that.
Catherine?
Hi, I just wanted to ask you about Phillips and Brighton. Obviously, she came in quite near the end of last season just with the goal of keeping them up, and obviously now she's had the summer, they've recruited quite well. She's trying to sort of implement her style on the team. They're a very ambitious club, as I mentioned, facilities there. They've obviously got a facility for the women's team, and they've submitted, I think in the last week, a bid to try and build a purpose-built stadium for the team as well. So just kind of, what you think of Mel in terms of her as a coach, and that Brighton as a club who seems to be trying to do everything.
Yeah, really impressive. Really impressive. I think she speaks really well. I think you can see she's really clear on her vision and strategy for that team. I think the recruitment has been excellent this summer. I think that takes time to come together. I always talk about when you put new players in, it does. They've got to adapt to the league, and they've got to adapt to whatever their new homes. But I think Brighton will grow across the season. I think she's shown how ambitious she is, and I think she's brought something to Brighton that I think is more in line with how they are on the men's side. And I think they are a club that will move in an upward direction. I think she's a really bright young manager. She's younger than me anyway.
Thanks, Catherine. Unless there's any more questions, we'll end the broadcast section there and turn the cameras off and move on to the written section.